What if Jesus had children? What if his bloodline didn't end at the cross, but was carried in secret across oceans of time, protected by kings, concealed by knights, and hunted by popes? What if the Holy Grail was never a cup at all, but a living, breathing lineage, one that still exists today? You've heard fragments. Dan Brown, Da Vinci, Templars. But beneath the fiction lies something older and far stranger. A royal family erased from history. A code written not in ink, but in blood. And now, after centuries of silence, the story is whispering again. But to hear it, really hear it, you have to slow down. Let the centuries peel back. Let the myths fall silent. Let your breath match the rhythm of old stone halls where forgotten kings once walked. This isn't just a story. It's a revelation that stretches across empires, churches, and graves. It begins, as many secrets do, with a death. The year was 679. A chill crept across the woods of the Ardennes. The birds had gone quiet, and in the shadows of a Roman road, something sacred was shattered. Dagobert II, the last fully sovereign king of the Merovingian line, was murdered allegedly on the orders of the church. A spear to the eye? Or maybe a knife to the throat? No chronicler agrees. But what they do agree on is this: Dagobert was the last obstacle. And once he fell, the door opened to a new age of rulers, ones more compliant, more useful, and most importantly, ones without divine blood. Because that's what the Merovingians claimed. Not merely to be royalty, not merely to be chosen, but to be descended directly from the sacred. A bloodline stretching back not just to David, not just to Abraham, but beyond that, to Galilee, to a carpenter, to a woman with red hair fleeing by boat, her belly full of prophecy. It sounds impossible, outlandish, like something from the margins of a conspiracy forum. But history has always hidden its truths best when they're disguised as lunacy. And as you'll see, the deeper you go into this story, the harder it becomes to dismiss. The Merovingians ruled much of what is now France, Belgium, and Germany. Their kings were marked by strange traditions, never cutting their hair, claiming visions, wielding power through mysticism rather than force. They were revered as God-chosen, even feared as semi-divine. But then suddenly they were gone. Quietly, bloodlessly, erased from power and eventually from the record. Their names scrubbed, their tombs hidden, their children hunted. And in their place came the Carolingians, the dynasty that gave us Charlemagne, the dynasty the church wanted in power. Now, centuries later, clues to the Merovingian past are re-emerging. Coded texts, secret societies, lost gospels, whispered names. And always, always, the same lingering question: why did the church try so hard to make us forget them? Some say it's because the Merovingians were heretics. Others say they were too powerful, too independent, too magical. But the most dangerous theory of all, the one we'll explore tonight, is that the Merovingians were removed not because of what they did, but because of who they were. And more frightening still, because of who they still might be. Because blood doesn't vanish, it flows through centuries, through generations, through veins, and perhaps, just perhaps, through someone alive today. So settle in, dim the lights, let your curiosity stretch its legs, and allow your doubts to nap in the corner for a while. You're about to step into a mystery older than kings, deeper than dogma, and sharper than any sword ever raised in its defense. Before we venture further into the shadows, take a moment to subscribe so you never miss a secret that history has tried to forget. You picture it now: deep forest, pale mist rising from damp leaves, and and the heavy scent of pine and silence. The year is 679. Somewhere along the Ardennes, a hunting party moves with uneasy quiet. Among them rides Dagobert II, King of Austrasia, wrapped in a heavy cloak of royal blue. His face is lined, but his eyes burn bright with something that doesn't belong in these woods, something like purpose. It would be the last journey he ever made. History tells us little of the moments before his death. One account claims he was isolated from his guard. Another says he was betrayed by a servant. Either way, the king was murdered, and what followed was even stranger than the silence of his death. The chroniclers stopped writing. Not just about Dagobert, but about the line he came from. It was as if the ink froze in mid-air and the royal blood spilled quietly into the dirt, unremembered. Dagobert II wasn't a rebel or a failed monarch. On the contrary, he had only recently returned from exile in Ireland, where he'd lived under the protection of the church. He was restored to the throne with the blessing of bishops and nobles alike, suggesting he had allies in high places. Yet just a few short years later, he was gone assassinated under mysterious circumstances and with almost no recorded outrage. That in itself raises eyebrows. Monarchs don't just vanish without consequence, unless someone wanted him gone and wanted him forgotten. Now here's the curious part. Dagobert's son, Sigisbert IV, should have inherited the throne. By all accounts, he was alive, a legitimate heir. But he never ruled. No crowning, no ceremony, no resistance, nothing. His name slipped from the annals of official history like a stone tossed into a deep, dark well. Some whisper he fled to the south to the region now called Languedoc. Others say he was hidden by monks loyal to the Merovingian cause. A few bolder voices, rare and often laughed off, claim he was taken to a small village in the Pyrenees where he lived under another name, and where his descendants still walk today. It all smells like a cover-up, and if you're feeling that gentle tingle down your spine, you're not alone. Because Dagobert II wasn't just a king, he was the last of a very specific kind of king. His family, the Merovingians, claimed something older than conquest or crown. They claimed divine blood. To understand why his death mattered so much, you need to look at what the Merovingians